sending energy to one part of my body. The way I describe it would be like an energy beam coming through my brain, passing the barricade at my brainstem, traveling down. And I was trying to get my hand to move. My mom kept seeing me move my pinky. I had to like gain everything inside of me to be able to show my doctors and my family a sign that I was still in my body. And I knew that I had to do that with a big movement. That day, I remember all of my energy was focused on one particular part of my body, and that was my hand.
Brisa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's so great to have you here. Brisa and I met at a event hosted by Greg Reed, and it was a fantastic event called The Secret Knock. But I want you just to explain people your background and your incredible story is a great place to start.
Okay, well, first of all, my name is Brisa Alfaro. I am from California, and my background, I used to be a hairstylist in California and New York City. I loved the beauty industry and I traveled for the beauty industry for many years. And until one day, about 11 years ago, and that day was changed the trajectory of my life. But before that, I kind of thought nothing bad would ever happen to me. I kind of was living my life like I'm young. I was in my 30s and just nothing bad. I wasn't a bad person. I um never really got into trouble. So what could possibly go wrong? And the universe delivered something pretty crazy. I wasn't ready, but you're never ready when something like that happens.
Mhm.
So I end up in a New York City hospital faced with a less than 1% chance to survive. I didn't understand what was going on because I was at the hospital for a symptom that was unrelated to what had happened. But the fact that I was at the hospital when it happened, I'm alive to tell the story. Because if I was anywhere else, I wouldn't have made it. So I'm laying there in the hospital, in a hospital bed, not understanding what just happened, listening to the doctors all talking around me and talking about my condition. And I was kind of confused about that because none of the conditions that they were talking about I had anything to do with me, or so I thought. And when they said my name attached to the fact that I had a stroke and I was 32 years old, I was completely blindsided because I didn't think that something like that could happen to me. So, as they were working on me, making sure that I was taking care of, like they were making sure that I had the right medicine and that I wasn't allergic to anything. Meanwhile, I'm trying to talk to them and tell them what's going on. I'm okay. I don't I don't have any allergies, but nobody was talking to me and I didn't understand it. And I'm like, why is everybody talking around me? No one's talking to me. And that's when I realized no one could hear me. And the reason that they couldn't hear me is because I wasn't speaking. I wasn't speaking, but I thought I was speaking because when I had the stroke, I developed something called locked in syndrome, where I was locked in my own body. So I couldn't communicate with the outside world. So things were coming in, but I couldn't express that they were coming in. So I was basically locked in my body. And I was feeling like at first I didn't understand it. At first I didn't understand that the that's possible. I didn't know I couldn't move. I didn't know that I couldn't breathe on my own. I didn't know none of that. I didn't know what was going on. And that's when it kind of accelerated. They put me into a medically induced coma until my family got there to the hospital. And then when they took me off of, they started weaning me off and I started coming to, I still couldn't communicate with anybody. And I couldn't express myself, or I didn't know how to move any parts of my body. I couldn't move. They would ask me to move. I couldn't move. They were sticking needles in my toes. I couldn't react. They were doing all these tests on me and my body couldn't react. And I didn't understand what was going on until the hospital that I was at was a learning hospital. So I could hear my doctors explain my condition before my family arrived. They explained my condition to the residents, and I get, or is that what they're called? The learning, the doctors that are learning
Yeah, the
to be
intern residents. Yep.
yeah. Um, so they were explaining my, I guess, scenario to them, and they're asking them questions and everything. And that's kind of how I learned about my situation, that I was locked in my body, that I wasn't able to communicate with the outside world as a result of having locked in syndrome. And while I was in that state, I overheard them say that it is very rare, that people do not often survive it. There are less, I realized that there were at that time less than 5 cases per year worldwide.
That's
And that survive. Most of the time it goes unnoticed because smaller hospitals, or not as big, or people that are just unfamiliar with it, hospitals that are unfamiliar with it, they just chop it up as the person is brain dead or unresponsive. There's nothing left, unless they do the specific tests that will show that there still is something there. There's brain activity. But if it's not, because you're not moving, you can't even breathe on your own.
Yeah.
So eventually I had to get trached and pegged. Machines were breathing for me. I was being fed through a tube in my stomach, and I was like that for weeks so that I could stay alive. Meanwhile, doctors are telling my family that this is no way of life. And even if I survived it, I would have to be sent home with all of this medical equipment. And that's how I was going to live my life for the rest of my life. And they don't recommend it. So it's really not a way of life. So my family kind of disagreed, and they pulled together and said, no, you're going to give her a chance. She is going to pull through this, even though there was no data out there saying that I would pull through this. So at that point, I started to realize that there are other people that believe in me more than I was believing in myself at that very moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed that. I needed to hold on to that hope, even though I didn't even know it was hope. And I hung on to that to the point where my mom started playing, like she would read books to me while I was laying there. I used to think that my mom was the only one that could hear me, but she wasn't the one that could hear me. She was just being a mom, and she could understand like things like, are you cold? Do you want another blanket? Let me go get you another blanket. And I would think that she heard me say that, but she would say, you're hungry, aren't you? I literally was hungry. And all of a sudden they would come and feed me, which was also kind of crazy because they would just fill up my tube and my stomach, and all in seconds I would be satiated.
Telepathy, going on.
Yeah. So reading your book, I realized my mom, before my stroke, when my stroke happened, I was 3,000 miles away from my mom. And my mom calls my brother and says, I'm trying to get a hold of your sister. I think there's something wrong. My brother says, Mom, no, she's fine. She's probably with her friends. No big deal. But my mom's like, no, I think there's something wrong. There's something wrong. She goes on to her, on the phone, there's an app you could see where I'm at, whatever. And she sees I'm still in the same, she knew I was in New York, but she was like, she's still in the same location, hasn't moved. And she's like, I know there's something wrong. Again, my brother's saying, no, it's not a big deal. She's probably just with her friends. She just turned her phone off or something, and or battery went dead, making all these excuses, right? My mom's like, no, I know there's something wrong. Bought a one-way ticket to New York City from California. And as she's packing up her bags, she gets a phone call from the hospital.
Wow.
And she's like, I already bought a ticket. I'm on my way. How does that happen? I don't remember what chapter it was, but I read that book, your book, and I read that part of God, what was it called? Something quantum entanglement.
Awesome entanglement. Yep.
And I read that part to my mom, and my mom's like, that's it. That's what happened. That's how I knew. I'm like, that's science, Mom. It wasn't, we just figured you're just mom and you kind of had that feeling. But I'm like, it's science. It's science. That's so yeah. Your whole freaking book, man. I was so excited reading it. It was so good. But yeah, anyways, going back to my story, sorry.
Oh, good. I'm loving it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm in the hospital. Doctors are explaining my scenario, like everything that's going on with me. I'm starting to get these aha moments, like, oh, okay, that's why they can't hear me. That's why nobody's responding to me. However, my family still responds to me. Like they were so on the same page. My mom made sure of it, said anyone that enters this room is going to be positive, is not going to talk to her about any possibility of any negative outcome. Everybody's going to talk to her as if she's going to walk out of this hospital tomorrow. Like
Wow.
no one is talking to her in a negative perspective. And that worked for me because all of my family that came to visit me was so excited for me to get out of the hospital, to the point where like, Brisa, what are we going to do when we get out of here? What's the first thing you want to do? What do you want to eat? What's the first thing you want to eat? I mean, it was, excuse me. Sorry, I'm getting so excited, but I still have to like, from my tracheotomy, I still have problems with my throat.
Oh,
But
God.
let me get some water. And so, so all of my family was on the same page, and they just wanted me to get excited about recovering, get
Mm-hmm.
excited about me leaving the hospital and living my life. And they were all on the same page about that. And they were all getting me excited to the point where I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to get out of here. Like I was dreaming. I started dreaming with them. They started filling up my cup with nothing but possibility, nothing but hope. And it didn't matter what the doctors were saying or the statistics or any of that. None of that mattered. All that mattered was me dreaming. I just kept dreaming. And my mom played the Secret, an audiobook, and The Secret focuses on the law of attraction. And I remember one of the authors, she said, the first step is to ask, make a command to the universe. Let the universe know what you want, because the universe responds to your thoughts. That's all I had. I didn't have anything else. All I had was my thoughts. So if I have to change my thoughts to change my outcome, then that's step one. That's what I'm going to do. And that's what I did. So, and that was, by the way, that was Lisa Nichols that said that.
Wow. Yeah. Who was on your book too? Yeah.
She actually wrote the foreword to my book after I told her my story. And she was like blown away by it and wrote the foreword to my book as a result of it. But I feel indebted to her and to that book for the rest of my life because it changed my perspective on what is possible when you have belief and when you back it up with action. And I didn't have physical ability to be able to move, but what I could do was start to dream. And I started playing this movie in my mind of the perfect scenario of what I wanted to happen, what I wanted my future to look like. I started to dream about what it would look like to walk out of the hospital, what it would look like for, the rest of my recovery. So I never stopped painting this mental image in my mind, so much so to the point where I would be so deep in thought in this movie in my mind when my nurses would come in to take my blood or anything like that. They would interrupt my movie because
Mm.
I'm like in my head thinking, of my whole outcome, how it's going to look, and I'm playing this constantly in my mind. And when they would come in to draw my blood or feed me or change me or whatever, bathe me, I kind of had a moment, oh, back to reality. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm locked in my body. Nobody could hear me. And it took that, that was playing out for so long.
And I'll
But
ask you a question about that, but please
yeah.
continue.
Um, okay, so well, you can ask me, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So my biggest thing is the nurses interrupted this mental image that you have.
Mhm.
2025, there's so many people that are so afraid and rightfully so, given circumstances. But I feel like that's kind of an analogy for how it is for a lot of people today is, they want certain things and they want to focus on certain things, but then everywhere that they go, it's kind of like a nurse coming to like back to reality, right? So
Yeah.
what would you say around that?
So I do this method for myself, and I also teach that to my clients. It's a pause and play method. So it's gonna happen. Life just life, and the negativity will come in. You can't control everything, but you can control your own mind. And when that would play out for me, I would accept it like, okay, yeah, that this is my reality. That's right. But then I'll go back to playing my story. So pause and play. So regardless if like I was lying in a hospital bed, but even now I'll do it. Where I'm completely inundated with like negativity and I start to believe it, I'll start to spiral. I'll start to think like, oh my God, they're right. What if that happened? What if the, why am I worrying about the what ifs from a negative perspective? Why don't I just pause that? I'm just going to pause that right now. I heard it. I got it. I hear you, what you're saying, but
Yep.
I'm also going to pause you and I'm going to play on what I want to hear. I'm just going to keep doing that. And every once in a while, that message will unpause itself and start to seep in. And again, I'm like, okay, I get it. I hear you. Whatever. I don't necessarily subscribe to it. I just hear it out and then pause it and
Click
play
the
what I want.
unsubscribe button.
Hmm. That's it. It's
Yeah,
it. I mean, even if you unsubscribe to something, it doesn't mean that it's not good. You're not going to accidentally access it. I
right.
mean, how many times does that happen to us? Like even just on YouTube, you
Mhm.
like, you can unsubscribe to someone, but doesn't mean they're never going to come up in your feed. They
Yeah,
might,
they will.
they might, even if you're not subscribed to them, they
Mhm.
might come through and you might be listening to something and go like, whoa, I didn't want to hear that. Well, just freaking swipe away, swipe away, swipe onto a screen that you want to see. And that's what I just keep doing. I mean, that's what I did then. I just kept okay, that was my reality. Nurses come in, they break my dream, my movie.
Mhm.
They paused my movie. I let them do what they got to do, and then I go back to dreaming. And I just that was my happy place. What I didn't realize was that there's science behind that. And I didn't realize that that's visualization.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize that that literally could take you to your next goal, your next milestone. And that was, I believe, the catalyst to get me to the moment that happened right after, which was because there was many times that I was trying to get my family to notice that I was still in my body, but
Mhm.
because I didn't know how to send those signals from my brain to my body, it didn't translate the way I wanted to. So I was sending signals down. So basically, the way I describe it, I'm not a doctor, so I mean, I'm going to describe it in the way that I understand. When I had the stroke, when I developed locked-in syndrome, so it happened in my brainstem,
Mhm.
and your brainstem is like the main highway going in to your brain. I describe my brain as a town, and something can happen within that town, left side or right side, and it interrupts that area. Like you can only maybe that something happens in that area and you got to repair it over time, and and as long as you continue to work on it, you will repair it. But if something happens in your brain stem, it's your main highway going in and out. So now everything that's in your brain stays in your brain and can't come out because your highway is broken. And I needed to fix my highway. I needed to find a way out to get through my highway, to get through to the rest of my body. That was the type of stroke I had happened in the brainstem, which is the main highway going into your brain.
Mhm.
So I realized that I was starting to find a way, like find a path to the rest of my body. I just didn't know where it was going. So I was sending signals to the rest of my body, but I didn't know where it was going. So it was just like random places. So I would move random parts of my body, but the doctors would say to my family, like, because my family would say, she's moving. And they would say, unfortunately, those movements are involuntary because I couldn't control them because they were just
Just
sporadic,
sporadic. Oh,
random.
that makes
I
sense.
didn't know what part I was moving. So if I could do it on command, that would be different. So I focused on that, sending energy to one part of my body. The way I describe it would be like an energy beam
Mhm.
coming through my brain, passing the barricade at my brain stem, traveling down. And I was trying to get my hand to move. So it was traveling down through my arm, passing my elbow all the way down to my wrist, and then kind of stalling at my wrist. Now I'm like, I gotta show them a sign that I'm in my body, because now I have the neurologists, the nurses, my family, everybody sitting around my bed going, come on, Brisa, show them a sign, show them a sign. We're not crazy. Like, show them a sign. And I knew that that's what I needed to do. I needed to show them it wasn't an accident. My mom kept seeing me move my pinky, and that wasn't an accident. I kept doing it on command. But now, when she's asking the doctors to come in and see it, I wasn't performing. I wasn't showing her them that I could do it, because now I was tired. But I had to like gain everything inside of me to be able to show my doctors and my family a sign that I was still in my body, and I knew that I had to do that with a big movement. And that day, I remember I all of my energy was focused on one particular part of my body, and that was my hand. And they wanted me to open my hand, where before I was just flickering my pinky. That was my very first micro movement was flickering my pinky.
It was your
A
left or
pinky,
right pinky?
my right,
Oh, you're right. Okay.
my right pinky. And I knew that I needed to do more. And I just was so tired I couldn't do it. But I I I had a lot of help. I'll just say I had a lot of help. I had to get everything right. And where I was in space and time in that very moment, I knew that I needed help. And I gathered enough energy from everything in my body, everything from my past to my current, from my family in the room, the energy they were giving me, the energy that I was receiving from my doctors and nurses, the energy that I was receiving from all the prayers around the world for me, just everything. I made it in my intention to use that as fuel to show them a sign that I was still in my body. And that came out when I moved my hand for my doctors. And when that happened, that started my recovery. And then it became a recovery. So then more parts of my body started moving later on. I mean, it was weeks and weeks and months and years till the rest of my whole body started to move, but it was worth it. It was worth it. Every single thing that I have accomplished, I call them pinky moves, because that was my first movement. That was, and it all starts with a pinky move. That's it. It's all you got to do is, and everybody thinks you got to climb a big mountain right away. You don't. You just have to keep moving your pinky. All I did was I moved my pinky, then my hand, then I moved my arm. Then I was able to sit up. The first time they sat me up, I was like a baby. I couldn't keep my head up because I was like a newborn baby all over again. I had to relearn how to do everything, physically speaking, again. So I would do these little exercises in my bed where I would lift my head, try to lift my head so I could send those signals. Every moving body part that I am moving today, I had to send those signals to that particular area of my body. So whether it be my neck, whether it be my arm, my leg, my toes. I remember my doctor came in and said, your toes will probably be one of the last things to move because it's a small movement. It's not very, it's just harder to get fine motor skills to move like that. And it's going to take some time. I took that as a challenge. I was like, no, all I got to do is focus on it and just freaking focus on it and make it move. And every single day I was like just staring at my feet and like staring at them and sending those signals. And one day my doctor came in, same doctor, check on me and was like asking how I was doing. At this point I could start to move my hand now. And I grabbed my blanket and I moved it over very slowly, but I moved it over and I pointed at my toes and I moved my freaking toes. I'm like, don't tell me I'm not going to do something. And every single stage of my recovery has been like that, to the point where I would visit my doctors in a wheelchair and I would say, the doctor would say, this is incredible. You shouldn't even be doing this. And I would say, yeah, that's great. But when am I going to walk again? Like, that's what I want to do. I want to walk again. And they would say, Brisa, what you're doing right now is incredible. You shouldn't even be doing that. You should be happy with what you got. Who are they?
Motherfucker, what did you say?
Yeah. Who is anybody to say what you are capable of?
Exactly.
Right? That's up to you and God. That's it. Like, if you think you're done, then you're done. But if you think there's so much more for you, then you're right. Either way, you're right. You claim it. If you claim that this is as good as it gets for me, then you'll never receive anything more. If you decide that you deserve more and you're going to go get more, then you're also right. And I decided that I wasn't going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I still have both sides of my body. There is no reason that I can't send those signals to the rest of my body to move. And I'm going to send those signals. And little things where my mom kind of helped the process. She would put an oven mitt on my right hand. Once I was starting to get good movement on my right hand, she would put an oven mitt so I couldn't move it anymore and use it anymore. So I was forced to send those signals to
Wow.
the left hand to make it move again.
That's
And sometimes it would be so frustrating. But how many times does that happen to all of us? We get so frustrated because we can't figure it out. But doesn't mean you stop.
Mm-mm.
You just keep going. And as a result of that, I had to figure it out and I made it move. And I mean, it didn't happen overnight, but little by little, pinky moves, I got it to move again. And I've done that with every single body part, every single part of my body, physically speaking. And now, mentally, I've been working on that the last few years is what the invisible deficits that people don't see that I still work on that are also pinky moves. And I know it's all a process. And I think that there's always hope. We can't lose hope. There's always hope.
There
Reading
is.
your book gave me so much hope.
I love that so much. Likewise, I was equally inspired. Was your mom always so optimistic? And where she was always believed in manifestation and that type of stuff.
I Yes, to a degree, never talked about it or anything like that, but also my mom, she's a very stubborn lady, very like not meticulous, but just very um detail oriented, very she was or is very if you put your mind to it, you can do it. So I would say even before my stroke, I would say, Mom, I'm struggling with this or whatever. And my mom would say, put your mind to it, you'll be able to do it. I remember when I was a kid, I would when I was like turning into a young lady, I would really struggle with cramps. And my mom would say to me, women are going to have to endure much worse than cramps. So you need to get over it. That's how my mom was. She didn't care. She was very like, yeah, that sucks, but get over it. So through my recovery, my mom was very like that. Yeah, that sucks. Like she would ask me, I would ask her, I would be sitting on the couch finally when I was home, and I would ask her for a glass of water. And at that point, I was walking with a walker, and I would I would ask her for a glass of water, and she would say, "Yeah, come get it. I put the glasses low so you can grab them, or the cups low." She used cups, not glasses, but she would say, "Come get it," and I think, it's gonna take me half an hour to walk to the kitchen, like nah. And she would say, "No, come get it." Okay, so there I go, hobbling over to the kitchen to get my glass of water or my cup of water. And then I would think, well, now how am I going to get back to my couch? And she would say, okay, now I'll take it to you. Go sit down. But that's what I mean. She
Yeah.
was very tough when it came to that. So it was very much like, no, you got to figure it out, like tying my shoes, figure it out. Like everything she would say, create a system that's going to work for you. And I did that. I mean, even now I have short-term memory still that I still struggle with. Not as bad as it used to be, but I had to create systems where to the point where I would take a shower and I would be washing my hair and I wouldn't remember, did I wash my hair already? By the time I would rinse out my hair, I forgot. So I had to create systems where I put the shampoo bottle on the left. That means I didn't wash it yet. If I put the shampoo bottle on the right, that means I already washed it. So I got into that system. And if it was on the right, by the time I was done rinsing out my hair, okay, I see it's on the right. So I know I already washed it. So now I can move on. And before I would be hours and hours and hours in the shower. And my mom would say, are you okay? Knocking on the door. You've been in there for hours. I didn't even realize it because I have time distortion where that part of my aphasia is with numbers. I can't remember the name of the uh I can't remember that part of aphasia, but that's I have a problem with numbers. So I literally when people say um you have no concept of time, I'm like, no, I really don't have a concept of time. Like, I don't know how much time has passed. So I have to put alarms on everything, but
Sure.
that's what we do. We just have to adapt and keep going.
Hmm.
That's it. We just can't quit. I know that's how I've been going throughout the rest of my recovery, and it's been working out pretty good for me. So yeah.
Have doctors at neuroscientists, have they ever looked at your brain? Uh,
No, I was just speaking to someone about that. I mean, I've gone back and been studied speaking to them. Um, my neurologist at New York Presbyterian Hospital in Manhattan. In neurology, I talked to almost all the neurologists there. They kind of brought me around to all of the um, doctors there and were explaining my case to them, but it was a kind of unannounced. I just went back to the hospital to thank my original neurologist for all the work that they did for me. I just went back a few years later and thanked them, and they couldn't believe what they saw. And one thing that they did say is not a lot of they they see their patients, and then when they go to step down, they don't ever see them again. They don't ever know what has happened. And I came back to thank them. So they were so intrigued and wanted to know so many questions. But that is one question that I never thought of asking them. Can you send me, what you learned from from all the studies that you guys have done? The only brain scans that I had were the ones from the very beginning,
Mhm.
and that's it. But I'd love to do them now just to compare.
And it had a
So,
complete, when they scanned it originally, it was a completely um, blockage right there in the brainstem.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why. I mean, and I don't blame them for giving my parents and my family not great outcomes, statistically speaking.
Yeah.
Someone that suffers that type of brain injury is the outcomes are not there's not very many cases, and there is not very many cases of great outcomes. So I don't blame my doctors for not wanting to fill my family with hope. Um, but at the same time, I have to give them their praise for being able to, one, study what they're studying and being open to a different outcome and possibility, and running with that, and not continuing to tell my family that there was no hope. So even though I know what it looked like, and they know what it looked like, and
Yeah.
it didn't look great,
I
but
called it
um,
an indoctrination. When you're indoctrinated, is these
oh,
people go in with wonderful intentions, 99, maybe 99% of them. But when
mhm.
you're around and you think and you're taught a certain thing, it becomes
Yeah,
your own box. Like what could become, helping people ends up becoming the own mental prison, I think.
I agree 100%. And I think that it's unfortunate, but I mean, if you're surrounded by negativity, you will become a negative person. So if you're surrounded by horrible outcomes, you will always look and expect horrible outcomes. And unfortunately, that's the medical industry these days, is there is more bad than good.
Hmm.
And that's obviously where their mind is going to go, unfortunately. But there are great cases, and it's up to us as the survivors to seek that information and to find other survivors of whatever it is that we're going through, and find um, those cases and those the evidence that we need to support what we believe. If you believe that could be you, and you know that inside of you, why are you focused on the negative outcomes? Like, focus on what you want, not
Mm-hmm.
what you don't want, because you're going to attract more of what you want. I heard this from a breast cancer survivor. She did just that. She focused only on people that had positive outcomes, never on the statistics or the possibility of any other outcome. And because she completely surrounded herself with what she wanted, I believe that that is the reason that she's here to tell her story today, because of that. So I don't know. I think our body is made to, like Dr. Emoto's study,
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. Our body will believe what you tell it most. So
That's,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
what do you feel are the hidden, like the hidden things that people do on a most people do on a day-to-day basis without even realizing they're sabotaging themselves?
One is thinking negatively.
Mm-hmm.
Where your attention goes, energy flows. So whatever it is that you're aligning with, whether it be consciously or subconsciously, you are going to receive what you're aligning with. And maybe it could be family members or friends that are just negative people, or a negative environment, or you're consuming negative um, TV or social media, whatever it is. If you are uh, like completely immersing yourself in that, your attention is in that, and where your attention is, you're attracting that. So be aware of where you're sending your energy to, and spending your your capacity. So I think moms are really good at this. They don't they don't realize it, but they're when they're raising their kids, they want their kids to be in a good environment and in a positive environment.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Um, they want their children to be in a positive, growing, beautiful environment. But also sometimes they contradict each other, because it'll be a beautiful, positive environment, but then they put on something that doesn't help them, like, I don't know, cocoa melon, and there's so many studies about that's kind of hypnotizing them in the wrong way. Well, what if you hypnotize your child in the right way, and putting them into something that is going to serve them? Do that to yourself too,
Mm.
because many times, like, we will absorb whatever we are around. Like, we become that. You put yourself in around, you know certain people, you will become that. It's it's just inevitable. So I think that whatever your thoughts are will create your reality. So what are you thinking about? What is it that you want your child to be thinking about? What is it that you want your maybe you're not someone with a brain injury, but maybe you know someone that has a brain injury. How can you serve them better by talking to them maybe about hope and possibility, instead of always going to the negative perspectives, like always thinking like, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? Well, you'll cross that bridge when you get there. Don't don't put that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the positive. What if that happens? What about if that positive happens? Then you don't even have to cross that bridge. So think about what you want. And I think for everything, everything in your life. I mean, I'm talking about driving in your car. If you think there's going to be traffic, if you think you're going to get every freaking red light, guess what you're doing? You're attracting that. And
Hmm.
you will get every red light, and you will get every crappy driver in front of you, and you will get random people cutting you off, and you will get a bunch of traffic because that's all you are focused on, and that's going to happen. Just like when you are get a new car, you maybe never have drove a or or thought of this particular car that you're driving, and then all of a sudden you bought it, and now you think everybody on the road and everybody and their mama has this car now. Nobody had it. That was out there, but
It's
now
so
you know.
funny because it was so it's so obvious to most people that negative things attract negativity,
Mhm,
but for some reason they don't think about how positive things attract positivity. I We all know that, like, you hang around bad people, you listen to bad music, you do bad things. Well, bad things tend to happen. But
mhm.
they don't for some reason skip out on the other side of that.
Oh yeah, yeah. It they think it's a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. It it actually happened exactly the way it was supposed to. But the cool thing is that you could change it.
That's the
That's what's
coolest
so
thing.
amazing.
That's the coolest thing.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, there's just try it. Just anybody that's listening, just try it. Do, like try with a freaking parking spot. Just like expect a good result. Expect a really good parking spot. And I'm not just saying like, yeah, I'm gonna, hopefully there'll be a good parking spot. Probably not, but I hope that there'll be one in the front. No, 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 no. You can't do that. It has to be like you expect it. You know it's going to be there because it always is. And I know people like that that will always say like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm just a lucky person. I just always win. I always get a good parking spot. I always this, I always that." They expect it. They don't even deny it. They just expect it. And it happens because it is not outside of the realm of possibility. So what if we did the same thing with the things that we want in our life
Mhm.
and just expect it to happen, and then it will. and
Mhm.
and and honestly, it doesn't, like I think in your book you did say something about there is a lag time. So because of that lag time, a lot of people think that, oh well, see, I tried and it didn't happen. No, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And as you keep doing it, all of a sudden you're like, oh shoot, you won't even realize when it happened. You'll just start thinking like, yeah, I've been having front row parking spots for I don't know how long.
I
You've
think
been doing that, you don't even realize it.
um let's see, Bob Proctor talks about just repeating something over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, like until it just becomes automatic.
That's it.
Hmm.
It is. It has to be a part of you, like a new way of thinking, a new, and like a new synaptic connection, right?
That's
You
right.
you you have to do that. It's same thing with me when I was recovering, because they said that I lost a lot of synaptic connection, so I was not able to do those physical things with my body, because now those what are they called? Those little brain things, they're not connecting.
Neurons.
Yeah, those things.
Yeah.
They're not connecting. So I gotta find another pathway or whatever. But you can do that. That's what's amazing. You can form a new synaptic connection with a new, fancy word things, and they'll go come together, and you made a new pathway.
They
You
will.
made another way to get to the same result. It's just like setting your GPS. When you set your GPS to where you want to go, sometimes shit happens and there's an accident or there's construction or whatever, but it doesn't mean you're not going to get to your destination. It just means you're going to be rerouted. And then it might take you a little longer. Might take you a little longer. It might suck because you got to take the long road, but you're still going to get there unless you turn off your GPS and you go back home.
Mm.
If you go back home and you decide, I'm not taking the long road, I'm just going to go back home. Well, then you'll never get there.
No,
And that's it.
you definitely won't. When it comes to your like big grandiose vision that you have for the world and what you would like to do before you leave this planet, well, what is that big vision that you have? I'm curious.
So, oh gosh, which one of all of them? I have so many. I really want to change the way people look at brain injuries. Um, a lot of times people look at a brain injury as a final, like a they have a
Final
brain injury and
sentence,
that's
like a
it,
death sentence.
like a death sentence.
Yeah.
Like it's that part of their life is over, or
Mm.
that part of their, the who they once were before, they'll never be again. And that, to a degree, is a fact. You
True.
are never going to be that person again,
Mm.
but you could be a better one.
Hmm.
You
Way
could.
better.
Mhm.
Yep.
And that's a fact. So if I could drive one thing home to people is it doesn't have to end, and you can change everything with small moves. Small moves will lead to big results, but they have to be consistent. And that's the whole reason I talk about pinky moves all the time, because that's how I recovered, through little small actionable steps over time, consistently, has created a life that is barely recognizable for me.
Mm.
Barely recognizable. I I don't even recognize the same person that was laying in the hospital bed 11 years ago with a sliver of hope. A sliver of hope. But that's the thing, you don't need much. All you need is a little sliver of hope. And
Mhm.
that's it. Don't let it go.
Mhm.
Build on that. That sliver of hope is not just there to remain there and that's it. It's there to help you build on it, to have some kind of foundation so that you can build on top of it. You can't build a house without foundation.
Mhm.
You need a foundation. You need to build your infrastructure, your walls and your roof and the bedrooms and everything, in order for it to be a livable, habitable environment. You have to build it out. But first, you start with the foundation and hope that is a good foundation. So, yeah,
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And
of course.
uh, I think it's a great place to wrap up because
Okay.
hope is an amazing thing. And never when you're without hope, you're hopeless. So what
Yeah,
no foundation to build upon.
that's
So
right.
for those who should definitely, by the way, if you're here, reach out to her. What the heck? If you're not, come on. After just hearing
Thank you.
that, so how can people get in touch with you?
So you can find me through my website or social media. Probably social media will be the quickest way. I through Brisa Alfaro I'm Brisa Alfaro on all of my platforms to some degree. Also brisaalfaro.com. Pinky Moves, that will be one that you could remember. Pinkymoves.com. You
Hmm.
can remember
New
me on
book,
that.
right? Coming out, right?
My book is that's going to be my next book, is Pinky Moves. But right now my book is Limitless.
Oh yeah.
um it's That's my first book, and that's basically my story. The next one is going to be how my story is going to help you. And even though I've heard a lot of people, it's helped, my book has helped a lot of people, and I'm very grateful for it, because when I was writing it, I was really doing it for myself to get it all out. And as a result of that, it helped other people. And that's a great message that I hope that people receive today, is that your story can help other people. So whatever it is that you're going through is absolutely not just for you. It's for the people around you because it can absolutely help them. Your kids, your sisters, your brothers, your parents, your family, they see if you could do it, I can do it too.
Love it.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, everyone, yes, please reach out to her. I'll put it in the show note.
Yeah.
And yes, there is hope. Keep going. Baby steps, pinky steps, whatever it takes.
Pinky moves.
Pinky moves in
Yeah,
the right direction and they add up.
they
Everyone,
do.
have a
They
great
do.
day.
Please send me your um pinky moves. Send me your pinky moves. I love to share them.
Amazing.